One of the things that people often ask me about is like, what is your own personal process, Kathleen? And so I think today, what we'll talk about a little bit is maybe Manifestation 101, and then I'll take you through my personal process of rising in consciousness, which then results in many manifestations. And I'll show you a little bit about how I specifically follow these steps in my life. As a whole. I want to start off by saying that manifestation is such a beautiful thing that gets misunderstood greatly. And so many people think manifestation is just wishing and praying for a thing, or it's some sort of magical rituals that you do to manifest things in your life. And I think some people confuse spirituality with manifestation. So they think that conducting spiritual practices on a daily basis are manifestation. So for me, I think the best way for all of us to manifest all of our dreams coming true is to understand what manifestation is. For me, manifestation, I say this multiple times, is spirituality meeting personal growth and development. I used to say peak performance. So there is still a peak performance characteristic or part of manifestation. But I think when we confuse peak performance with manifestation, we think about forcing it, trying to be perfect, trying to be a peak performer means trying to like perform for others or things like that. But for me, I use the language personal growth and development now because I want to become the best of myself, and understanding that when I become the best of myself, I call in all the best things that this life has to offer. Peak performer felt hard for me. It felt like I need to do more, and it moves me more into the masculine. So for me, I want to have that beautiful balance. So manifestation is spirituality and personal growth and development. So the big thing I want everybody to understand about manifestation is it is about becoming an elevated version of yourself. So when you sit down to manifest and you make a decision, I'm going to manifest this, and you do some rituals and you write it out and you light a candle and you do a moon ceremony and all these other things, I want you to understand that there is personal growth and development that will happen to call in your manifestation. So you can't be the same old person that manifested your current life and manifest an elevated life. You have to become the version of yourself that has the experience of the elevated life. So what I mean by that is, for example, is removing limiting beliefs. It's about being more confident, more disciplined, more consistent. It's about loving yourself more. It's about being more outgoing. It's about building better connections with people in life. It's about expressing yourself fully and showing up in times when maybe you have been hiding or being in behind. It's about making bolder, more daring decisions. It's about showing up in a different way. It's about jumping into the pool instead of sitting on the side. It's about going all in instead of just dipping your toes in the water. These are the shifts in who you believe you are that will change the entire course of your life. So I always say I'm not here to help you manifest one thing one time. I'm here to help you embody manifestation so that you can embody an elevated version of yourself and have a new experience for the rest of your life. So instead of manifesting $10,000 once, I'm going to teach you how to manifest $10,000 on repeat for the rest of your life, then 20, then 40, then 50, and we'll just keep going up from there. So the spirituality piece comes in because I did a post about this, and if you follow me on Instagram, you'll see it. I did a post how some people have called me a witch sometimes, and they're not saying it in a nasty way. Like, nobody's trying to like insult me. They just think like, I can manifest so easily and effortlessly, I must be some sort of a witch or something. But what I actually said is I'm not a witch at all. I'm a sorcerer. And Kathleen actually has a beautiful way of saying this, that a sorcerer is someone who is living of the source. To understand that all of the manifestations come through source energy. They come through spirit, the guiding and directing source energy through our thoughts, feelings, and actions create the manifestation. So that's the spirituality piece for me. The spirituality piece is understanding that there is a higher, bigger power. There is a source energy that I can direct the flow of where it goes. Spirituality is also understanding that there are forces of attraction that are at play, and to understand that I can move that by who I am being. Spirituality is the calmness, it's the surrender. Spirituality is the being inspired in spirit. So when you are in spirit and you're inspired and you are every day having spiritual practices and having faith and belief and all those things, and you pair that with the personal growth and development, that's manifestation. And that's where the magic starts to happen. So let's talk a bit about my 4-step manifestation process then. I remember when I first started learning about law of attraction and mindset, I had heard that, we live on 3 planes. We live on the spiritual plane, the intellectual plane, and the physical plane. And when I started to do a lot of research and learn about mindset, what I found is that mindset, it tend to be on 2 planes. So when we start learning about how to reprogram the subconscious mind, that's on the intellectual plane. And then, somebody would be teaching about, okay, well, this is how you reprogram your habits. Well, that's on the physical 3D plane. That's the movement of your body. So I was kind of going between these 2 planes. But it wasn't until I got onto the spiritual plane, first and foremost, then started reprogramming my subconscious mind, and then moved my body differently, that I started to quantum leap. So I love the stepwise approach of being in spirit first, reprogramming the mind, and then new actions follow. So that's where my manifestation process began. I would be like, okay, I'm always going to go here. I'm going to go to spirit first. But then one day I had an awareness that before I could even go to spirit or be in spirit, before I could even think about what do I believe in or what is true, what kind of faith do I have, I needed to have self-awareness. And for my whole life, I was living inside of a box, an unaware box of just believing that I was who I was. And I was completely unaware of the thoughts that were going on in my mind, the identity that I held, the way I felt. Like, who did Kathleen Cameron think she is? And what does she feel like? No idea. I had no idea why I made the decisions in my life that I made. I had no idea why I didn't do things that I said I was going to do, but I didn't do them. And so self-awareness actually became my first step in my process. I cannot even tell you what I want out of this life until I know myself. How can I tell you what kind of house I want, what type of car I want, what type of business I want, what type of health status I want, what type of relationships I want, if I don't even know myself, if I don't even know who I am? And I think back to my life, and I've said this before, I just followed the motions of doing what the world said I should do. Go to school, get a degree, get a job, get married, have children, retire at 65, buy a house in there, and get married and have kids and, retire at 65 years old. So I just did that. I just followed the motions without even really realizing that I was making these decisions and doing these things. I was doing them unconsciously. And I think many people are continuing to just live life according to the way things just are and should be. So self-awareness for me is always the first step before I try to manifest anything else now. So I will sit down and I will ask myself on a piece of paper, Kathleen, who are you today? Who do you think you are today? And that's going to be, I'm going to have a completely different answer to that question today than 4 years ago. So the Kathleen that I believed I was 4 years ago, she's gone. I don't know, there's like 4 or 5 iterations been since her. But today, right now, if I were to design a new life for myself and I wanted to manifest something completely different, which I am doing always, the first thing that I would do is I would sit down and I would say, okay, who do you think you are, Kathleen? In this moment right now, as you sit here in this 3D physical space, in this moment in time, when you're sitting right here, who do you think you are? What do you think you're good at? What do you think you're bad at? What do you love? What do you hate? What makes you really, really happy and inspired? And what really, really bothers you? What have you manifested and what would you like to manifest? What do you believe in spirituality? What do you believe about yourself? What do you believe about the world? Do you think the world's a good place, a bad place? Do you think people are inherently good or do you think people are inherently bad? So this self-awareness is so incredibly important and will serve you along the entire manifestation journey. But if you don't know the answers to any of these questions, you are going to remain unaware. And you're going to get to a point where you're going to follow all these manifestation steps and how-tos. You're going to make your vision board and you're going to do this, you're going to do that. You're going to follow all these rituals. And then you're going to look around and you're going to be like, well, why isn't it working? Why isn't it here? And it's because you're unaware. It's like you have blinders on and you can't see. So what I'm doing is I'm helping you to collapse time into quantum leap by showing you the real secret behind it all first is to take the blinders off, to ask the tough questions, and to get to know yourself. And once you get to know yourself, you're now living from the inside out, not from the outside in. So it's not about I am who the world tells me I am. It's I am what I believe I am, and the world will believe that. And trust me, like even you listening to this podcast right now and listening to the words that I am saying right now is because I intentionally chose to believe. I made the decision to believe that I'm good at this, that I love this, and that people want to hear it. And that this is my passion and my purpose, and this is my expertise or my zone of genius. So because I believe that about myself, people are listening to the podcast and enjoying it. And now we're recording more and more episodes from that belief. But most people will still have the belief of, I don't think I'm good enough. I don't know enough. I hope people like what I have to say. Oh, I better keep studying. I better keep learning. I better keep getting better. I don't know enough yet. And so that energy is going to be very, very different for your audience. So the audience isn't going to be as trusting to what you have to say. They're going to feel it. So I always say self-awareness is step one for me in the manifestation process. So if I were to sit down right now today and say, okay, I'm ready to create a rise in consciousness, I'm going to manifest a new life, the first thing I do is self-awareness. So it's almost like a baseline. This is a very nursing word. So as a registered nurse, we used to talk about like, what are your baseline vital signs? What is your starting point of who you believe you are, your beliefs, your assumptions about yourself? Then we're going to go back to that top hierarchy that I was talking about, the spirit, the mind, and the body. So then I go into spirit. So the next step for me is to know myself and then spiritually align and connect with a greater, higher power and make sure that I am really, really well aware of my connection to source energy. We are all one with source energy. We are all one with God. We are all one with the universe. You can't be separated from it, right? So it's like we are one drop of the ocean. It is still a part of it. That's what I truly do believe. So for me, it's not about connecting to source energy. People say, how do you feel your connection to God? Or how do you connect into God? Or how do you connect to source? I always say, well, you're always connected. You can't disconnect, but you can be unaware of or not perceive it. So when I say spirituality is the next thing and where I give my focused attention, what I mean is perceiving my oneness, being aware of my connection to source, feeling that energy flowing to and through me and being aware of it. So that might mean that I start to visualize more, meditate more, have more spiritual practices. I might do grounding. Walks really, really absolutely help me. So whatever that is for you, it could be journaling, it could be listening to meditative music, any type of spiritual stuff. Like I love sound baths, sound bath healings. I always feel my connection to source energies during sound baths. I've done a cacao ceremony in Joshua Tree earlier this year. That really, really helped me. So whatever those practices are for you, I think the important thing is that you feel your connection to source energy. Because when you understand that if you use the next two steps, mind and body, really, really effectively through spirit, you will see that that's where you quantum leap. That's where the magic happens. Most people are reprogramming the subconscious mind and changing the movement in their body, but they're not doing it with their conscious awareness of source energy. And so they're fighting up against themselves instead of allowing that power. You know, Bob Proctor used to say to me all the time, make room for the forces of attraction all around you to be able to help you. Make room for God to be able to support you. Let God take God's responsibilities. And so that's why I love to make sure that I'm in spirit first, because that's allowing space and room for God to be able to do what God's going to do. Wayne Dyer in The Power of Intention, greatest learning from that book. He said, you know, intention isn't something that you do. Intention is a force. So I like to see it as, and this is just me putting it in my own language, what he said in that book was, we guide and we direct source energy through intention, through the power of our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions. But how can you do that if you aren't even aware of source energy? If you can't feel it, if you're not connected, if that power isn't there? So for me, before any new manifestation is written out, before a vision board is created, I make sure that I am in spirit. And I'm coming from that higher spiritual awareness and understanding. Then the third step is to go into the mind. So this is where the self-awareness information comes in handy. Because then I ask myself, okay, Kathleen, let's go into the intellectual mind now and let's ask, what do you want? What would you love, right? The mind is going to tell you what you want. It's the ego that has the desire, which is beautiful. And the personal mind will tell you, this is what I want on the vision board. So the next step is to dream. The next step is to ask, what do I want? What would I love? What is this elevated experience for me? And then you can have fun with creating the vision board. But then you have to answer the question, who do I need to be? So who do I need to be to have this elevated experience? How do I know I need to be someone else? Because who I think I am today has created my today, which isn't the elevated experience I want. So in order for me to have that grander life, I need to have a grander identity. I need to become my grandest version of the greatest vision of myself I could ever be. That's Neil Donald Walsh language. I can now go into my identity and I can look at those things that I pulled out at the beginning with my self-awareness and I can say, okay, I'm shy. I don't like to do this. I procrastinate about that. I always tell myself I'm going to do this and I never do it. I could really, really strengthen my belief about source energy. I could strengthen my belief about my business. What would be the ideal team that I could have? And what do I currently believe about my team? Where am I judging? Where am I complaining? Where do I think I'm not good enough? Where do I lack in my worthiness and my confidence, et cetera, et cetera. And so this is where a new identity will be born through the third step, which is the intellectual plane or the mind plane, because I'm going into my mind to know who I think I am and to reprogram who I think I am. The only reason that I am the woman that I think I am today is because I chose to believe that I am. And the belief that you can change it was one of the first beliefs that I changed. Because if you can't change who you are, then what are you going to do? You just keep being the same person. So I started to believe that I could be a really powerful speaker, even though the old version of me thought she was shy and timid and wouldn't even speak in front of 5 people, let alone thousands of people. So I had to change who I thought I was. And then the fourth step, after we've created this new answer to the question, who do I need to be? And we have this new identity to match the new elevated experience that I want in life. I then have to say, okay, so what kind of action do I take now? Right? This isn't about sitting on a couch and meditating all day long. This isn't about wishing and dreaming, futile daydreaming. It's about taking action on your goals from the belief that they're already done, right? So what would I do as the version of myself that has this grander life? And the more of the things that version of you would do, the more you do them today, the more you self-define. So we recently had the Lionsgate portal, August 8th, and it was all over everywhere. Like everybody was talking about it. All of my clients in the Diamond Academy family were all talking about this Lionsgate portal. And I thought it was really, really beautiful to have so much focused attention upon it and for people to be pouring themselves into these routines and these rituals for Lionsgate. But part of me just wanted to remind everybody that intentions are not set on a piece of paper with a pen on a specific day. Intentions are set in action. Embodiment is where intentions are set. So I can set the intention on a piece of paper that I'm going to be consistent and disciplined and then never take action in the physical form. That intention, it's not done, it's not set. So the real place where the magic actually happens is when you embody the new idea, the new version of yourself, to act consistently, to act in discipline. If you've made the decision that you're going to be more confident, I'm going to believe I'm a confident woman today, that's it. You write it down on a piece of paper. You do nothing until the moment that you take confident action. And that's where, even the law of attraction has the word action in it. Wallace D. Wattles, he says that our thoughts are the magnetic power that bring everything to you, but your action makes you open to receive. And that's what I mean by that, right? So we can say, I'm going to become this, but you don't become it until you become it. till you do it, till you act in that way. So I'll never forget when it was 2020, I was in Los Angeles, California. I was at a Bob Proctor event, and we wrote out our 50 plus want list to write out 50 things that we would love to have in our life, experiences, identity, everything. What would we love? And I wrote out this list. And then we were given a task of doing one thing on the list now, today, right now. So I looked at this list and I went, okay, what can I do today? What's going to happen? And I circled flying first class. So I said the elevated version of myself flies first class everywhere she goes. So that day I made the decision, I'm going to fly first class for the first time. So I got to that airport and I flew first class. So what did I do? I took something that I wrote in paper and I put it into action. That's the final step. So most people, and who I was before, was always trying to change my habits. And I was trying to change my habits from the 3D physical plane only. So I would set an alarm, I'd get an accountability partner, I'd have a best friend to go to the gym with me, I'd hire a trainer, and I would try to force myself to change the behavior. But now I understand there's so many more things that I can do that make that whole experience so much easier for me, where going to the gym and exercising is just a natural part of who I am now. Because I became self-aware, I got into spirit, and I let source energy work with me, so I'm co-creating. I reprogrammed my beliefs in my mind about exercise and going to the gym and how I feel about my body. And guess what? Now I love working out. Now I love training. And if I miss a day, I'm like, oh, I don't want to miss a day. Like, I just want to make sure we do it every single day because it feels so good. So I'm not trying to force myself to do anything. I'm allowing the manifestation process to do for me what I've been trying so hard to do on the physical 3D plane only. So effortless manifestation isn't effort-free, it's effortless. So less effort, but the effort is still there. So yes, have I manifested incredible, amazing things in my life that feel like they're magical? Yes, they do. But I've also done the work. I'm actually in the gym. I'm actually in the game. Like, I'm not sitting watching in the audience. I'm here, I am showing up, and I am loudly and proudly and boldly going after everything that I want. And I continue to use that 4-step manifestation process through it all. So I hope that you find this helpful and that these strategies work for you. And please remember that the limit does not exist.